All right, coming at you live. This is THRIVEcast. Welcome once again. I am your host, DJ Eshelman, and joining me as always, Mr. Jeff Pitch here once again. And that I have muted because that's the way I roll. Get these names up. Yeah. How's it going, Jeff?
It is going well. It is hump day. It's a great day.
Yeah. Halfway through I don't know. Does this matter in quarantine anymore? Is this like, are you working like pretty much 6-7 days a week?
For the longest time, I couldn't have told you what day it was of the week. Kids were home. Wife is home all the time. I'm home all the time. It didn't matter. Weekend was a weekend any day I wanted it to be. And exactly. But now that my wife is actually working, I at least know it's the work week versus the weekend.
There you go. There you go.
It's all coming back together.
Awesome. Well, today we are joined by Douglas DeCamp. And here we go. Welcome, Douglas.
Hello. How are you?
Doing well. And maybe I'll let you decide how much background you want to give in introducing yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a little over a 20-year veteran of information technology. So mostly I've spent the majority of my career in end user compute and application desktop delivery. And my most recent transition was to an SE for Agile Corporation. So getting out of the day-to-day working grind and closing tickets and spinning up new things and turning more into a coach and a mentor for people and helping them with their UC environments. So pleasure to be here.
Yeah, good to have you, man. And by the way, we should mention that iGel is not an official sponsor of this show, but at the same time, if you have time tomorrow, you should definitely go join the virtual conference that they have going on. You can register at disrupteuc.com. I am going to poke in as well, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There's always a lot of good things that iGel's been doing. I actually spoke at Disrupt here in Nashville in January, yeah, right. And that was a great time, and a lot of sessions that aren't necessarily what you'd expect. It's not all like strict technical content, which just makes me a fan. So it's gonna be great stuff. So make sure you get with that. If you have a comment at any point during the broadcast, just put that up there, and we'll put it up on the screen for you. Or if you have just something you want to talk about, put it right there on the screen, and we will, or put it in the comments. We'll read that and get with you. And then, of course, if you want to share this stream, I forgot to put this up on the screen. We'll type this real fast. It is always going to be Thrive. I can type. Honestly, I can.
Type and talk at the same time.
Make sure to get it right, but
it's almost as hard as walking and chewing gum.
It is, yeah. So if you go to thriveit.com/live now, this is always going to be whenever we're doing a live broadcast, we update that the day of the broadcast. So that stays with the broadcast up until the point of the day. And so that's just a good shortcut to get to the last week's broadcast. If you're catching up to, that's usually going to take you there. But you can always just subscribe to our channel at thriveit.com/YT, and that'll always take you to the channel. So that is something that's good. Now that we're done with the housekeeping items and the overall introductions, let's talk a little bit about Doug, about your career. Like, where did it actually start, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So I was initially, how I got into this, I was working at a car dealership. So by the name of Ed Schmidt in Perrysburg, and Toledo, Ohio, and I was working in the service department. There were some things that changed in my life. Medically, I could no longer do the job that I was doing, and I really loved working there. loved the people that I worked with. So they, one of the things that I was always really good at was was drivability and diagnostics with all the electronics. So they asked if I wanted to kind of take over in IT. So I started part-time in parts and part-time in IT. So they kept me on board. They were they were just amazing to me. They paid for my college, for me to go back to college, learn IT, get my certifications, sent me to to boot camps, all kinds of stuff. They were just it was a fantastic and amazing organization to work for. So that's how I got started, and it was mostly Unix stuff at the time. So it was a system called Reynolds and Reynolds. We started doing that, and then around 1999, 2000, we went into we started expanding and went into Microsoft and Citrix as well. So to deliver apps remotely and publish desktops and all kinds of really cool cutting edge stuff at the time. So cool. NT4 Terminal Server Edition. So with Metaframe 1.8. So
would you say this was a voluntold situation, or was this something that you saw and rushed into?
No, they gave me the opportunity, and when I was in college, even growing up, I always loved playing on computers, and so I thought, why not? Now I get to get paid for it. So, and the more and more I did it, the more and more I liked it. So it was cool. It was a great way to great way to get a career started, and especially having such a wonderful group of people behind me. So.
Yeah,
still talk to a lot of them, which is great. So
what was the time frame of that as far as years? What years?
So from 95 to 97, I was I went. They sent me back to they had sent me back to school. So I was working, part time on the help desk, part time in the parts department, and then at night going to classes. And then 1998, I switched over full time. And then I had my first foray into like a real world, modern day Windows, Citrix environment, starting at end of 99 to very early. It was, January of 2000. So
that's pretty cool. You don't really see that much anymore where companies are, investing in that kind of way in people. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah. The Schmidt family was just was amazing. It was truly, you were working for the family. So I mean, they had a big sprawl and everything, but I knew the family well. I'd been over to their house. I'd been on. I got the opportunity several times to go out on his boat, which was amazing. So
cool.
Yeah, it wasn't really a job. It was just it was kind of like I got to go to work and hang out with friends. So
that is always nice when you can think of it that way.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened after that?
I kept learning new skills and doing more and more, and pretty much that company wasn't going to grow anymore. And I was talking with they had made the transition from father to son, so it went from Ed Schmidt to Tom Schmidt, and the CFO Richard, who is now actually running the place. And they said, look, we're not going to be able to pay you anymore, but we know you're worth more. So they gave me some ideas and tossed my name around a little bit, and I made the move. And so I went to work for a large company that I'm sure you're probably very familiar with. So it was a division of Healthways. So it was headquartered out of Nashville, right across the street from Bridgestone Arena.
Okay.
So that was when I first started, traveling and everything, and kind of fell in love with the Nashville area. So that, and when I got to go down there in the wintertime, I got to go to Predators games. So it was always awesome. And started doing a whole lot more, with a lot more Citrix, larger environments, and global environments. I mean, it was because a lot of people don't know, but like Healthways is massive. There were call center operations in Puerto Rico, England, Turkey, Australia. So got to do all kinds of cool stuff, and eventually I worked my way up to a manager position, and it was pretty much from like Tucson, all the way over to the West Coast in Puerto Rico. that I was taking care of. So I was traveling around that circuit, taking care of the network and making sure that everyone had all the apps and desktops and everything that they needed. So, and it was when I first got into imaging and deployment of desktops. So, which just enthralled me to no end, and I still love doing that today. That's why I still run the user group that I do, and it was because of my start into that and being able to think like, wow, I can convert like 3,000 machines tonight, and
Right.
so using a config manager. So it was awesome. So
Yeah, it's fun that first time you realize that there are these force multipliers, like when you realize how much more effective you can be. It makes you feel like, well, it really is that hero moment. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we when we first made the switch and started started going with a wasn't it was a Microsoft SMS at the time, and eventually into Config Manager 2007. It was we beta tested that right before I left, but with SMS and doing the deployments and learning the task sequences and learning like, wow, okay, I can not just deploy the desktop, now I can also install the applications afterwards, and I can get Citrix on there and have it and then have it pre-configured, with change some files, just by running a little script within the task sequence, and just learning all those little ins and outs and how to more and more about automation. It was incredible. So fantastic experience. I loved working for him. It was just eventually the travel became a little too much. So
yeah, I know all about that.
yeah.
I think it's amazing what you talked about with how you got into the Nashville area, in that your current employer basically said, we know we can't pay you, but we also know you are worth more than what we are paying you. And they helped you take that next step.
Yeah.
It's so rare to see something like that. I think that's just a great point to find, to point out, is that, there are people out there, and it still happens today, I'm sure, but
Oh, yeah.
it's those little things like that make you remember a company, remember people with, great thoughts. It's great word of mouth, when you're talking to other people, or if they say, hey, I saw you worked at this place, that's such a great thing to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was my entire time at Ed Schmidt. It was, I never felt like I had a job. That was just, the greatest part. And the coolest thing, both Ed and Tom, both, it was the culture that they put through. You would see them both doing every aspect, that they could. If they needed to go park a car, bring a car around for a customer, talking with people, guiding them to the bathroom, they would actually walk them all the way there. They would invite people over, to their homes. And every now and then they would just show up with like a whole bunch of food, and we would have picnics and volleyball in the back of some of the dealerships. And it was just amazing. They treated everybody like family. And they truly and deeply cared, for every one of their employees. And that's amazing. And Richard, running it now, exact same way. He moved from Cincinnati up to the Toledo and Perrysburg area, just to be part of that culture. So it's
Nice.
yeah, it's just an amazing group of folks there, and hence why I still talk with them and keep up communication with them. It's great. Met so many wonderful people there. So truly gave me a set of principles, to kind of define my life around.
Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
Love it. Well, take us through the next steps of the progression here. How did so you kind of got tired of being on the road?
Yeah, I would be on the road for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And don't get me wrong, Healthways, I mean, they were great.
Did
Everything
you
that
have a family at that point, or is this
I did.
before? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. I got. I'd gotten married and started with children right before, shortly before I left at Schmidt. So had had kids, family, and then went to kind of for the money, and I did. I got paid, and it was great, and I continued to work my way through the progression. However, there was a big trade off, and that was that I would be gone 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Now I had expense accounts and spending money that would be taken care of.
Mhm.
I never had to worry about anything. I always had at the time, of course, you had the BlackBerry, right? I mean, that's when you really knew you got someplace. You had an actual semi smartphone. You had a BlackBerry,
Yeah.
and I would have all my travel arrangements on my BlackBerry that would tell me like here's your flight, here's your hotel, here's your rental car information. I had a laundry service that would take care of my clothes. My clothes would be in my room before I even got there. Things that needed to be laundered, so I didn't have to worry about it. Again, it was a really good company to work for, but the travel was just it was insane. So eventually, I wanted to spend more time with my family. Kids were into sports, and I wanted to be there for all that fun stuff. It was putting a toll on my marriage, being gone 2 3 weeks at a time, come home for a couple of days, and then go for another 2 3 weeks. So, although I did love going to Puerto Rico, but uh,
Yeah.
it's okay. I can vacation there now. But so I stopped that, and I took a job with a huge at the time was the largest healthcare company in the world, HCR Care. So headquartered in Toledo, and it was just a short drive from my house, so it was nice. Every day I got to drive 5 miles to work. Had my own little parking spot and walk across a bridge. Went in, worked on the 13th floor. Which I always thought was kind of cool. Most buildings don't even have a 13th floor. They just skip it. But ours, we had a concrete floor, and there was nothing above us. Aside from rafters. We didn't even have a drop ceiling and just some lights hanging down by chains, for the IT people. And that's where our data center was too, because that's where every good data center should be, is on the 13th floor of a building. And I got to, there is when I got to do my first ever like really big migrations. So
Oh, okay.
migrating all kinds of, so they had so many, old NT domains, and upgraded them to Active Directory, and then started, collapsing them, 600 of them. So, and by the time
Domains or 600 miles?
yeah, yeah, by the time I left, we were down to two, and we had also done the migration from XP to from XP to Windows 7. Did all that with Configuration Manager 2007. And man, did I learn so much about Active Directory and
Sure.
cleanups and tasks, and really got into scripting and automating, and that was also when I found out where everything, the pulse of IT was really the end user. Because no matter what you were doing, even though we had this massive data center that was a city block, and you could hear it from 2 floors away. It was it didn't matter what was happening in there; no one cared. It was what's happening at my keyboard, and how's this happening? If I can't process a claim, the company doesn't get paid.
Right.
If they can't see a customer or a patient, you don't get paid. So ultimately, that was when I found out that it really came down to the end user experience. And that happened during our Windows XP to 7 migration. So we had a few false starts. But thankfully we didn't go like with a big bang and like, hey, we're going to do all 65,000 tonight. We started at our building. Several people on on a floor at a time. And if it worked, great. And we would make notes, but things that didn't work, then we went back and took notes, and it was when we found out that all these some of the things had like character limitations, old applications that wouldn't run in Windows 7, because we had thousands of applications, grew through acquisition, and we would just take the servers from their locations and just throw it into our data center, put it on the network, and make it work. Rather than migrating them. So that migration took a long time, but that was when I we started learning about standards and really making the end user experience as good as it could be. So didn't matter how many blades you deployed today. How many people did you actually make happy at the edge today? That's what it came down to, and that's how we started to get measured. So some great mentors there as well. So with the folks of Matt Hosser was really one that pushed big time for, hey, you got to make sure that the end users are happy. If they're not happy, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter how much you optimize to storage or for these databases. If the end user doesn't see it, it never happened.
Okay.
Now, when you were doing this migration, I mean, you said 65,000 desktops.
Yeah.
Did you do anything special with the end users before? Like DJ and I, we've talked about using marketing in helping users accept these large deployments of whether it's a new OS, a new version of a big software, whatever the case may be. Did you guys do anything special?
We did. We actually, we engaged with a technology partner, and we brought like the business units together. And while there was thousands of locations across the individual locations, whether it was a rehab center, a pharmacy, medical transcription, whatever it was, we worked with the people at those locations, and they kind of found their champions. And then it was the more feedback they gave us, the more rewards they got. So they would have their meetings in what they would call the Eagle Room every day at the locations, and that would come up, and then that feedback would all roll back to us as to what was happening. So they got rewarded, and they would get T-shirts, hats, mugs, different company branded swag that we found in closets. To be honest,
but it is a reward. It is something for helping out and getting them involved.
Yeah. I still have my umbrella, my golf umbrella. It's awesome.
Nice.
For that migration, for doing a good job, I got rewarded with a golf umbrella. The thing is awesome, and I love it. Granted, again, it was something that was found in the closet, and I got to hand pick it, but
doesn't matter.
Left over from a charity event that we did. So, but it, still made me feel good. It still makes me feel good.
Yeah, and it should. I mean, that's one of the things we had talked about. Is how do you get end users knowing that there's a big change, knowing that their lives, in good or bad, are going to be disrupted for an amount of time. And we've all experienced the user that you say, well, we're moving you to a virtual desktop, and immediately when you switch them, they're calling the help desk saying that everything's wrong, right? It really, there's so much of how do you sell this to the end user so that it's minimal impact, not just to their applications and what they can do, but also from a mentality standpoint that you are making a change, but the change isn't bad. You know what I mean? Like, like we talked about before, is you don't use the word virtual, things like that. That's a trigger in people's heads that, oh boy, things are going to be slow.
Yeah. So when I did my first virtual environment, it was Spectrum Health Lakeland, is where I met you, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I took that mentality that we had there from the Windows XP to the Windows 7, and ultimately what we did and we found out worked great, is we took the biggest critic, the most vocal person, and also the most technical non-IT person at each location, and they would champion it. And as soon as you got that critic on board, and the critic was happy, and the critic was singing the praises, you've now suddenly created an advocate for you.
Yep.
And it kind of gets people excited, and it's like, oh my gosh, well, like if DJ likes it, this has got to be good, because DJ doesn't like anything.
He's like Mikey won't like anything. But and that's a great point, is you've always got that one person that will complain about everything, and getting them on your side will eliminate so many issues from the other end users, because like you said, they look at it as, oh, well, this person isn't complaining about it. In fact, they're praising it. This must be pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it works, and it really does. So when I was doing VDI and working with you, you were with Unidesk and helping me with application layering, and trying to remember the other guy that we were working with. He was a foreign guy, super smart. He wrote a bunch of the cookbooks, for Unidesk.
Zalowski, Rob Zalowski.
Yeah, and
Yep.
we were doing Dragon and Epic, for the first time in application layering, and we had to get Ron involved, and but we eventually got it all worked out. And then we started selling that internally once we had those main layers that were in there for the scribes, the doctors, and the folks at a hospital system. So now it wasn't just massive conglomerate that I was working for. I mean, it was it's pretty much healthcare in Western Michigan. So rather than like healthcare across the United States, but still pretty sizable place, thousands and thousands of employees, but it's all hospitals, and the doctors run the hospitals. Don't let anybody else tell you anything different. The CEO, unless the CEO is a doctor, the doctors run the hospitals. The CEO is going to listen to the doctors because that's where the money comes from. So, and if they're not happy, nobody's happy.
Yep.
So we found the biggest critics, of the doctors, and we had them trying this and badging in and out with Imprivata, going to doing dictation and running Epic, and they found out that, oh my gosh, it's faster. And this old PC that I have now, that I was complaining about, that I said I had to get a new one, is now suddenly faster. And and how does that work?
Yeah.
and they were just mind blown. And so then people started asking for it. And that was when we really knew that we were onto something, and VDI was actually truly a thing now. So very, very cool. And so I started teaching other people there, and this is kind of how I got to my current position. That was when I found out that while I love completing projects and getting things done and making end users happy, when I was teaching other people, how to use SCCM, how to get people onto VDI, how to manage Citrix, Zen Desktop, or Horizon, and they were learning and getting promoted. So my good friend William, he went from help desk level 1, now he's to associate engineer, because he really caught on to all this stuff and never really had the opportunity for the training. So we would do lunch and learns, and he just grabbed onto this stuff and he started working on it in his own time. With a good friend of mine, Scott Martin, who I know you've met, Jeff, from my user group, and he went to senior engineer, and now he's an architect at Lico. And watching these people advance in their career and helping them do that, it was really what made me tick. And that was when I truly found my calling, is to help people and guide people and help them learn new technologies, not be afraid of it, but to embrace it and then to teach it to others. It was a talk from Marty Hazinga that really kind of made it click. We were at a user group meeting. We were at max capacity at this user group meeting. It was awesome. We had 87 people in this room, and it was in the winter. We even had the doors open going to the outside. And Marty Hazinga from ITS Partners was talking about coaching and was explaining that all the conversations that we were having at lunchtime were wrong. After we just got done with a couple of Microsoft MVPs and talking, and everyone was talking about the technology. But nobody was talking about how to use the technology at their business to overcome hurdles and how they could help one another. And I gotta tell you, because we had Marty there because we actually had somebody cancel. And when he started going up and he was telling us that we were talking wrong, and he said he was going to talk about soft skills and all this stuff, I was really wondering how it was going to go. Turned out to be it was amazing, and the most well received talk that we had there. I mean, we had Jeff Pitch there, we had Johanna Widmark there, both well known names in the the community. I think Johan has written like 13 books and has tens of thousands of followers, and people wanted to afterwards wanted to talk more to Marty about, how do I do this stuff, and and he's like, you build a relationship. He's like, talk with your peers. He's like, everybody around you knows something that you don't. Learn what that is. Hang out with them, make a real connection with them. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Find out, how they're doing this, how they're solving that problem, rather than, worrying about who has more cases closed. How are they closing those cases, and then share that information. And it was amazing. And I'm like, I'm running a user group, and I've never told any of my attendees to do this.
Right.
So I've been failing them for years.
I wouldn't say failing, but it is those things, which is kind of how this whole broadcast and Thrive IT thing came about, because it is amazing. And, DJ found this even with E2E the other week, is that whether you know it or not, these are things that people want to learn. Sometimes it just takes, sitting in on someone's session. Like, DJ, I think you said that your session at E2E was the highest, or right up there, and it was completely non-technical. It was, it was, soft skills, processes, things like that. And it was hugely rated. So it's amazing, because, if you ask somebody in tech, they're going to say they don't want to hear that stuff. I want to know about the tech, the user groups. I don't want marketing. It's not marketing, but it is non-tech. But yet these are the things, as you have found, Douglas, I think you would agree, that greatly benefit careers.
Yeah. You can always learn technology. There's so many ways to learn technology. I mean, whether it's, from your peers, Pluralsight, going online, Lydia, there's so many ways that you can learn it, get a book, watch listen to podcasts, go to YouTube. I mean, there's so much information that's out there, but it's navigating the world and navigating your career. That's hard. That's really hard. And there's all kinds of stuff that's out there, but what's right for you? And it's like you're talking about, like DJ's session, was one of the top sessions at E2E, and I watched it, and it was fantastic. Thanks. And but one of my favorite sessions, from Ignite last year, and I really wish I knew this guy's name, but it was on mental health in IT, and how it's still a stigma, and how it leads to burnout, and not to be afraid to have those conversations around mental health and depression. I mean, if you're especially if you're like in situations like healthcare and finance that are heavily regulated and come with a lot of stress. When you're in those fields, those jobs come with a lot of stress, and if you don't manage that, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. And he was talking about that, and I think it was the second highest rated session at Ignite. So and he was really young too. Is that I think. I'm going to guess he was like British UK by the accent, could have been Australian, but amazing. I've watched and I've watched it twice, since Ignite last year. I watched it live at Ignite, and then I watched it 2 more times since, just to kind of help keep me level. So it's especially during these days, right?
Yeah, same as you. I worked at a hospital. One of my really my first real job. And it quickly became apparent, even back, early 90s, when it was just the server room was a converted patient room. The ER had its own server. But if anything happened with that ER server, even back then, that could be a matter of life and death. Yeah, and nowadays, it's even more, there's so much more technology that goes into managing and running patients and getting information back and forth, that if it goes down, any piece of that goes down. I mean, it's literally life. It could be life and death. And that is a heck of a lot of responsibility.
It is. Yeah. Most stressful day I ever had at work is I got a call, and I never thought I would ever receive this call. Patient on table. They were in the cath lab, and the computer was being the computer that was monitoring this person's vital stats while in surgery, getting a heart stent in the cath lab, was updating. Windows updates were running on it, and of course it was offline. It was on a cart, and it was brought in, and it was locally installed application. and these these countdowns kept going. So they, so I actually had to suit up, and go in and run the commands, to stop it, and then and bring it back. Well, first time I ever had to, suit up. Second, and for going into an actual operating room while an operation is taking place, I about had a heart attack. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I honestly did not sleep for 2 days. I was like, you're told, that what you do, can mean the difference between life and death. But suddenly, then when it happens and it's in front of you,
Yeah,
it's so very real. And it was amazing. And the amount of anxiety that I had, these were commands that I've typed. I couldn't tell you how many times. I typed them wrong 3 times. And I felt like Ethan Hunt, it's like, Mission Impossible, got to get the code in at the, before the nuclear warhead launches, because if this computer reboots, what happens?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, granted, then they would just bring up the stethoscopes and stuff, and come to find out it really wasn't as much as I made it out to be in my head, but I didn't know that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a medical professional at all. So.
But you play one on TV and you play one well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Douglas, I want to ask a specific question here. So you made the transition from administrator to sales engineer. That's always a quote unquote, because that's something that people call it different things. And so I'm curious, like, how did you discover that path? How did you discover that that would be something that you wanted to do? Walk us through that a little bit.
So as I grew in my career, and I started reaching out and engaging with my field reps more and more, and folks like Jeff, when he was working for Unidesk, coming down and meeting with him, and I had my my Dell reps and everybody coming in and talking to them about what they do, and then watching how they would guide me through the technology, and having some conversations with these people, and finding out that it's about building the relationships and guiding people. And this is what I was this is kind of like what I was transitioning to when I was at Spectrum Health Lakeland, was helping people advance in their careers. And I found out that I could actually do this for more than 1 hour a day, a week. So I could actually do this, for 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it was and I knew I was going to be traveling and stuff again,
Right.
But the vast majority of my kids were older, so I only had the one young one left at home. So that's a whole nother story. So when you have 3 kids in their 20s and one is 7, but
Okay.
So it was kind of the right time to make that move, and it wasn't going to be the the nonstop travel like when I was with Healthways, but it was also a bump in pay, and
Sure.
I got to do more of what I liked, guiding people, helping them learn about virtualization and teaching people virtualization. Because once when I go in and to a customer, I always start with the architects and the lead admins, right? Like your admin twos, who are just underpaid architects, in my opinion. So
Yeah. Ditto. Yeah.
So they just haven't earned the title yet because they haven't been there long enough or something. Mm-hmm. So they need 3 more letters behind their name or whatever it is the criteria is at that location.
Yeah.
So plus you're out of that rat race too, which is nice. But you start with them and you get the technology implemented and rolling, and then you start with the people on the help desk. And so like with me, it starts with iGel, but then we start talking with Citrix, or we start talking VMware, or they get into a little bit of WVD, and they're getting access into Azure, and you see the light bulbs coming on, and learning, and like, oh, I can do all this stuff at the help desk too. I can go into Printer Logic and start assigning these things, and they start requesting more access, and wanting more and learning more. So because we deal with just one technology. We deal with anything and everything underneath the virtualization umbrella. And if anybody looked at the link that he put up earlier, there's going to be, I think, like 4 CTPs, that are presenting at Disrupt. like Teresa Wilson, Esther, I think Carl Webster, and I'm not sure, but and maybe Patrick Coble. But so we have and VCEs, global black belts. So we have to learn all this stuff as well. And these are the people that we learn from, and we get to take what we learn from them and deliver it, from the help desk all the way up. And you also get to learn a lot more of how things are structured and work at different businesses, different industries, different verticals. So I had spent after I left Ed Schmidt working at a car dealership, I spent almost 20 years in healthcare, and I knew healthcare very, very well. But if you would have said you need to go in and start working with Ford Motor Company or Coca-Cola bottling, and it's like, okay. Like, what do they use? What are their applications? What technology do they use? And I had no idea. So I got to learn all this stuff. So I'm here. I'll be at different places and working with these folks that are like, retail companies and learning what they do. So they're teaching me just as much as I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
So it's so the relationship is very symbiotic, which is amazing. So I get to learn, they get, from them, they get to learn from me, and we develop that relationship. And then, we go to others and teach, and then they also start learning about how to teach, which is great. And they're like, hey, this is really cool. I'm helping these people. Yeah. So having a job, I guess you could say that, it's kind of like my career has gone full circle. It's like going back to the dealership where they mentored me, and they kind of gave me that set of principles to start off with, and help me grow as a person, as a professional, as a father, everything. Now I get to kind of pay that forward and do the whole thing again. So it's it's amazing, being able to do this. It's extremely rewarding, especially doing it for like a company I work with who prides themselves on servant heart, as I'm sure you guys have probably both heard Jet Ayers say, and he preaches that day in day out. You do whatever it takes, and if that means you have to go and learn something new, then you do it. Yeah. There's no such thing as not my job. And if you're at a place, I was at a hospital system in Detroit, and we were working on some carts, the mobile carts, and these things were old, really old. And I'm in a room with a couple of people, and one of the batteries on the carts explodes and starts like a little small plastic fire in there. Suddenly, sprinklers come on, foam's coming down, the doors are closing, fire protocols are going off. So our workday is done, right? From a technology standpoint, my laptop is trashed, but I'm soaked. I've got foam. It's amazing. But I spent the rest of the day, I think, until like 6 o'clock at night, helping them, clean up that area and getting everything, put back together. Spent the night, so I could go back the next day and finish my work. So, used the guest laundry at the hotel, washed my clothes, went back in the same clothes I was there in the day before. They were clean, but they truly appreciated that. And again, that had nothing to do with technology. I mean, the situation they were in sucked, and I was part of it. And I realized how much it sucked, and it was like, what can I do to help make this better? I mean, we have this huge mess now. I was mopping, grabbing rags, taking things out, doing whatever I could. And it turns out it was one of the funniest moments of my professional career. So I was watching this happen. They told me that the batteries were literally exploding. I thought they were joking, or just, or how sometimes when it's like a fish story. Yeah. But no, the batteries were literally exploding.
Yeah. Jeez.
Oh man. Yeah, I think a lot of people miss the point with that, building those relationships, especially in sales. There's a lot of lip service to it, but it's a lot of it is the pressure, the way that sales is done, right? Mm-hmm. Orderly, you're only as good as the last deal you brought me. and that puts a lot of pressure on hitting different companies. If you don't think it can land, then you go focus somewhere else, and it's just craziness. But like you're saying, Douglas, those people are going to remember you, right? And they're going to remember if you go to work for a different company or something, or they change positions and go somewhere else, you're going to be at the top of their mind. I mean, strictly from a business standpoint, right? You're going to be at the top of their mind as he's a good guy. I know I can work with him. I can trust him. He's going to do me right with whatever comes down the road.
Right.
And that's just the business side. The personal side is even better, because if you might need something someday, there might be a resource you could ask to, I don't know, whatever about, and they'd probably be more than happy to give you an answer or help you out in some way.
Yeah, I go back to my old coworkers and and previous customers all the time. Somebody has a question. User group members, I hit them up all the time. I'm like, because I don't know everything. There's no way. It's not possible. Especially, I mean, I'm good in healthcare, really good. I don't even know everything there. I know a fraction,
right.
A very small fraction, of what to do and how it goes. But it's also different at every place. Yep. And when you're talking about sales, nobody's immune from sales. If you're working, if you're working at a retail place and there's a piece of software that you want, to help you do your job, or if you're working at a hospital, you have to sell that internally. You have to create the documentation. You have to make the business case, and you have to take that to your manager, and then convince that manager to then take it to the VP, and then the VP to take it to the board and get it approved. So it's something that everybody really needs to know. It doesn't matter where you work or what your job is. Everybody at some point in time is doing sales. So whether you realize it or not, or you're enabling somebody to do sales because your manager wants this and you want the promotion, so you're going to help your manager get that.
Yeah, right. Actually, it's something that I hear a lot of as far as objections. We're talking about making that transition from, wherever you're at to like sales engineering. So the people that are, very administrative or engineering, or even from an architect standpoint, sometimes finding that they're, not living in their strengths, but they don't want to go into sales engineering because it's sales, and they don't realize that, that's it, to get really good at what you do. If you're going to really make any kind of an impact, that's actually something you have to do no matter what your position is. You have to be good at selling your concepts, selling the reasons why something should be done. And really, Douglas, I didn't really hear you say a lot of time in front of people pitching a product or anything like that. What I heard you saying was that you spend a lot of time assisting, educating, and equipping people to be successful, is what I was hearing.
Yeah, I normally will do 2 pitches, throughout an entire sales cycle. We have the opening one, to and really it's not a pitch, it's just having a conversation. It's what are your problems, and can we help you solve them, or what obstacle are you trying to get over, or what are you looking to accomplish, and can we help you with that? Yes or no? And we make it very direct, to find out, so that way, and we can typically figure out within 20 minutes after, everyone's got a donut, everyone's got a coffee, and we learn each other's names, right? And then within 20 minutes, we know, is this, are we a fit, today? And if we are, great. Then I get introduced to the technical team, and we get to work, and then we'll work for months. Because it always takes a long time. You have to learn their environment, and getting certificates and everything, and all the security protocols and change management. Everything goes by, so it's no different than anything else. And then at the end, it's how much going to be taking it to the executive team, and that's where we go in and we show, and it's not me doing the talking, it's their team, that company's team that's doing the talking. Maybe I'll have a question or two from the executives, regarding like security or something, but it's their technical team. How did this work? We put them in front of because nobody can say it better than the people that are working with it every single day. So I may only be working with them for an hour or two a week, and have that cadence, but all the rest of the time they're off on their own and doing it, maybe pinging me with an email or hitting me up on Messenger, which is great. But the rest of the time they're working with it and they're teaching their folks. So why do we go in front, and make the and try to do the close? Let them do it, because they're the ones that want it. They're the ones that are going to be using it. So nobody can make a better business case than the actual person who's asking for the product.
Yeah, that, and you help them look like a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you can equip someone to be effective in what they're doing, that's always a win. But Jeff and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, that really, if you can equip someone to be good at and confident in pitching why something works, that's a transferable skill. That doesn't just apply to that one circumstance. Now all of a sudden you've given them something that they can use to get a promotion, that they can use to get a spouse. It's a portable skill when it comes down to it. But the reality is, selling is serving, and if we forget that, then we just need to go back to schlepping manure in the field or something, because there's no good without it.
Yeah. Well, that nobody wants to be sold, but
Right.
if you can help them buy something, it's totally different than selling them something. Nobody wants the Kirby vacuum pitch, right? I'm just going to barge into your house and start cleaning your carpets, and I'm going to stay here until you kick me out, or or you buy a vacuum, one or the other. Nobody wants that.
No.
But if you can help them buy a product that's going to actually prove value.
Yeah.
People want that. And if it doesn't have value and you admit it, that this software isn't right for you right now. Right. And you're just not far enough down the virtualization path, but hey, next year, give us a call.
Yeah.
Great. People respect that too, because you're not giving them the pitch. You're actually
giving them the
using my name in vain. I'm kind of wondering why. No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's hard. I think it's very hard for what I will call pure salespeople, is to admit that maybe this is not a good opportunity, either at all or at this time. I've seen plenty of salespeople try to chase and make it fit, make it work, never say no. And it just is like, no, I want to build trust with these people so that when the time does come or whatever, they will come back to us.
I want to get to the no as fast as possible, because otherwise I'm wasting their time.
Right.
Yeah, I'm wasting my time. And I could be out skating with my with my son, or I could be fishing. Instead, I'm chasing after nothing, and for what?
Yeah.
So,
right. Exactly.
I want them to. I honestly want somebody to tell me, no, this is just it's not going to work in our environment right now. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you're the one to say no, it's sort of like Progressive Insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it may not be the cheapest in their case, but we'll help you find the right fit for the right price. And even, if you come back and say, I really don't see where this will be a fit. I've seen it where it's almost like a reverse psychology thing. All of a sudden they start finding a way to make it work. Or the other side of it is more typically that they just like that you were upfront and honest in not trying to force something down their throat.
It's always the best way to be. Right? Honesty is the best policy, and it's always best to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
So people remember that. And
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And if you want to get to that no faster, bring them donuts the first week, bring them health shakes the next week. You'll find out what they're really there for at that point.
No doubt. I'm going to try that.
I just came up with that. I haven't actually tried that yet, but yeah, I think that's a good one. So let's talk one more thing. Mostly because we're all dealing with a kind of new way of doing things. We're forced to adapt, but the honest truth here is that we've had to adapt our entire careers. That's, I know the three of us, that's been our hallmark, is adjusting to new things. So I'm curious, Douglas, how has your position changed now that we're doing more working from home than we ever have? Traditionally, sales engineering is very much a on-site kind of a thing. So how's your position changed since we've had to do all these lockdowns and things like that?
Oh, it's much harder actually. It's a whole lot harder. When you take when the customer knows that you're taking the time to buy the plane ticket, fly out there, get the hotel, the cars, the expense, and you show up, they're going to make time to see you. If you're just after you just had a phone call and you scheduled a Zoom meeting, but 5 minutes before that, they get an email that says, "Hey, John and Sally are having this problem." Next thing I know, I'm getting a cancellation.
Yeah,
because I take second seat to John and Sally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's constant, it's constant follow up. And how do we do this? And making sure just to keep it on the calendar, touch after touch after touch, and continue to build that relationship until you have a relationship. You're not a priority when you're pre-pandemic, because you made the effort of going there. Going to their location, to accommodate them, there's a feeling that, like we owe these folks, at least, to hear them out, for the first time. But getting that first meeting is incredibly hard. And
physically being there in front of them, that's hard to ignore.
Yes.
It will be very uncomfortable for both sides if they, I got to run, man. See you later. You just, sit there, be good. I'll be gone. But you're right. It is very easy when you're not face to face to cancel a virtual meeting, or, whether it's Zoom or whatever else. Cause the people that are standing next to you are a higher priority than someone somewhere else.
Yeah. And if somebody's, constantly blowing you up on Jabber or Teams, that's that bug in the ear. And I'm supposed to be, working with Douglas right now, but this is a problem that I have right now.
Uh-huh.
This is something that is going to be nice to have next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and even just the ability to say, look, I've got a consultant or the sales engineer here right next to me. I'm working with them. I can't take the time. More people will understand that than saying, "Sorry, man, I got to jump on this meeting to do some other stuff and I can't help you right now." Well, he's not here. You're not, Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's all about, developing trust, as fast as you can. And, before I end any virtual meeting, I will, we always make sure we bring it up on our calendars and we set the next one right then and there. And, making sure, coming to that agreement. And then I keep in contact from there. One day ahead, 2 days ahead of time, making sure that we're still good, day ahead of time, the day of, hey, are we still okay for 2:00? Just to make sure, because you never know, they could have a P2, a P1 that happen. Those things do happen even when you're in person, and if that happens, they don't care if you flew around the world. They need to take care of it.
And rightfully so.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the little things you don't want to be bumped for.
Exactly. Yeah. So as long as you can make yourself more important than those little things that they know that they can fix, quickly afterwards, that's good. And it's all about developing a relationship and mentoring them. And I find is the easiest way to do that, because if you're providing value, then, suddenly, you become, part of the solution.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're important.
And the reality of all this is that, look, this is a time, and let's just face what this is. This is not the time to try and, that it's easy to foster relationships. This is the time when relationships are being tested, and that's a big difference.
Yes.
So yeah,
very much.
Absolutely. So that's a big one. So we're at the top of our time today. So I wanted to close us out. So I'm going to give, let's see, let's go with Douglas. I'm going to give you any last thoughts or.
Just remember, I mean, you wake up every day to serve. That's why that's why you're there. I mean, I think it's Marcus Aurelius who said it. If if you're going to get out of bed every day, why not other than to serve? So it's all you. It's just a good set of principles to live by.
Cool. Well, Douglas, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on.
All right. Thanks. So, Jeff, any final thoughts, any summary thoughts from you today?
No summary thoughts. I thought Douglas just nailed everything right on the head. So I guess this is kind of a summary thought. It always amazes me when I talk to a company, especially with sales engineering, where they are looking for somebody that knows the tech versus the other side, someone that has the soft skills. Because like Douglas said, we are in this because we can all learn the technology. It's the hard part is doing exactly what we do. And that is conversations. Yeah. The getting to know people, talking, small talk, things like that. And being able to get information out of them, and it's always, to me, I find it very annoying, when they're like, yeah, we were really just looking for somebody that knows the tech. Well, all right, but I can get you more sales. Yeah. So it's interesting. Everything he said, I gotta say, I loved it and absolutely agree with it. And I'm very glad he was, he had a chance to say those things, because he's had a great career and he's having a great career at iGel.
Indeed. Right on. And so we mentioned iGel Disrupt. If you're available tomorrow, Thursday, the 25th of June, that is going on. It's a free event. Like I said, they're not a sponsor or anything like that, but we just really love seeing these kind of events, that they're not just about the technology, but they're just as much about life in IT, which obviously fits with our mission really well. Obviously, we want you to join these broadcasts, and we know it's a challenge sometimes with scheduling, and we want to do these live more and more often. And we always want your feedback. If you have a time of day that tends to work better for you, or suggestions of time you would like us to shift our live broadcast to, we're more than welcome to gather that feedback in the comments, or just email us or whatever. But we do have a calendar up that you can subscribe to. It is thrive-it.com/ICS, and that will automatically add our calendar to your calendar, whatever reader you're using. And so that is a good resource to have. We're going to be updating that today, actually, with some next few broadcasts. Also, this is really easy to share our YouTube channel with a friend. You can just share on social media or whatever, thrive-it/YT for YouTube. So thrive-it.com/YT for YouTube. One final thing, if you wouldn't mind, go to take our survey. We want to learn more about you and how we can better serve you. If you go to thrive-it.com/survey, that's thrive-it.com/survey, take our survey, let us know how we can better serve you. And as always, thank you once again for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the next THRIVEcast. Cheers, everybody.